a lot of the stuff that Trump does, and says really bothers me, and I'm concerned about it. One thing I saw him do was he said that, he had trouble answering the question, could a man become a woman? And I'm just wondering what your response to that question is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, let's look at the fact. I'm sorry that we didn't make it to Dubuque, and I hate that we're not there, but I appreciate you coming on here. Look, I mean, I have said, I want to start with Trump and then get to the question. This is a hard truth on my part. I believe Trump was the right president at the right time. I agree with a lot of his policies. But rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. And everybody on this call knows that. And we can't be a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. And I think a lot of that is how he communicates and what happens. It just sets us all in disarray. And we can't afford a President Kamala Harris. Now, can a man become a woman? There's been a lot that's been talked about when it comes to all of these roles and all of these issues. I strongly believe that we should not allow any gender change surgeries to anyone before the age of 18, period. Kids now can't get a tattoo until they're 18. We shouldn't have them permanently change their body until they're 18. And that includes puberty blockers. That includes any sort of hormones that would do that. After the age of 18, we want to make sure people can live any way they want to live. I don't think government needs to be in control of anybody's life. You go live the way you want to live. You should be free to live the way you want to live. And government and everybody else should stay out of your way. But prior to 18, it is an important time, especially when you're going through your teenage years, that can be confusing. I don't think we should ever in any way have any sort of permanent changes. But after 18, I'm not going to say anything. I think that, you always have to believe in freedom and allowing people to live the life the way they want to live. And if that's how they choose, then, I don't think government should have any say in that.
So I had this exclusively yesterday. You might see it unattributed elsewhere, but I had this audio yesterday. And here's the thing. She's never answered the question as to whether or not she actually believes a man can become a woman. She never actually answered that question. She endorsed gender surgeries for minors once they hit 18 if they so choose. But here's the other thing, too. This is like a 1 foot in, 1 foot out attempt to triangulate this issue for her. Because she's like, well, I don't want to have the government to have a say in it. Newsflash to Nikki Haley, you need to wake up because the government has already had a say in it. People are literally losing their jobs. Women are losing opportunities. There are new regulations in schools. My gosh, they're also trying to fight. They're fighting right now to include it in the Americans with Disabilities Act. The Americans with Disabilities Act. There's literally a lawsuit ongoing right now. Women's sports is being colonized. This is the weak dodge that has allowed the government to do this. So the government has already had its say, Nikki Haley. They've already had their say. And additionally, so the magic number is 18. That satisfies what? The legal status. But if a minor has bulimia and anorexia, is it more or less an acceptable condition based upon whether the bulimic or anorexic is 18 years old? Body dysmorphia is body dysmorphia. We realize this, right? I mean, so does she think that parents who would sanction medically unnecessary experimental surgery for minors are going to be dissuaded from that because of the age 18? I mean, teenage brains don't even reach maturity until 25 years old. They think with the more emotional part of their brain, while adults think with their prefrontal cortex. I mean, age is just a number here. And it's also a veneer that Haley's hiding behind to dodge the issue. That's lame. I wonder how Iowans will respond to that. I want to go back very briefly, though, to the call that I played. And we got that from an Iowan with the Nikki Haley story, because I played this audio of her because she was asked whether or not a man could become a woman. And I don't know why. Like, Trump was asked this question as well on another podcast. But he was asked this question as well. Our show obtained the audio of that. And he was saying that, I think and I'm not going to get into I don't really know if I want to play everything, but he was saying that, with in answering that question, he goes, well, he says, in my opinion, you have a man, you have a woman. And I think part of it is birth. Can the man give birth? No. Although I'm sure they'll come up with some answer to that someday. And he goes, I just heard the other day that they have a way that now the man can give birth. I would say, no, I'll continue my stance on that. Okay. I don't know why that's such a hard question for anybody to answer. Can a man become a woman? Like, who are you offending? Who are you worried about offending? If on that question, no, a man cannot become a woman. Are you high? That's what I would have probably said. Maybe this is why thankfully I never want to run for office, but maybe this is another reason why I shouldn't. Is that really a game to be played, though? Do you really have to? And Haley she didn't even answer the question. She went into, well, after 18, I'm not going to say anything, as long as you get to the magic answer of 18. Now, as I pointed out, that might be fine for her, but she says the government needs to just, not have a say. Well, the government already had its say. Let me share this story with you. The Supreme Court, and this is just a piece into this run. This was, I'm going to make sure, this is just last summer. The Supreme Court allowed to stand a ruling. They're looking at gender dysphoria. They're going to put the trans issues, they let stand this ruling to incorporate it under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now that opens up a lot of other things other than just that classification. You're also looking at public funding. That's one of the things that opens up is public funding. People are losing their jobs over this. I mean, there are lawsuits right and left. For instance, there was one, this was just last month. The Virginia court is dealing with a lawsuit from a teacher who was fired because they would not use a transgender student's preferred pronouns. And so because the teacher did not adopt that student's false perception of self, that teacher was fired. I mean, people are losing their livelihoods. They're losing opportunities. I mean, for instance, New York Post, a track star. She calls herself Chelsea Mitchell, the fastest girl in Connecticut. She started losing race after race to trans athletes, men LARPing as women and going into track and field. And she lost 20 races to 20 men. I'm not kidding you. This is in Connecticut. That's how many are doing this. And she teamed up with other female athletes in Connecticut, and they're fighting with the Connecticut Association of Schools and the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference because they allow men to compete as women. So I don't know what Nikki Haley thinks here because the government has already stepped in. This thing, 18, that's just a dodge. That's just a weak distraction because the government already had its say. If they're forcing you to adopt someone else's false perception of self, if you do not affirm someone else's self-perception, then you could lose your job. You could lose opportunities. And not just you, but your kids. This is where this is. And the idea that somehow body dysmorphia is body dysmorphia, the idea that this is somehow safer or healthier than like bulimia or anorexia is weird to me. It's all a form of body dysmorphia. I mean, when you're slicing off your male copulatory organ and inverting it into an artificial female copulatory organ and making it to where you literally have to be on medicine for the rest of your life. You're dealing with constant pain. I don't know if you've read some of the stories. If the smaller number of people have gone through those surgeries, they deal with pain forever, and a lot of them end up regretting it. And it's one of the reasons why the suicide rate's so high. Instead of accommodating someone's body dysmorphia, maybe you should think about how to treat it. And I don't mean treat it by allowing people to mutilate themselves with surgical experimentation. It is so much more than just turning 18 here. That is asinine that this is her answer. And this isn't the first time that she's flubbed this either. I mean, so is it, if somebody has bulimia or anorexia, is it going to be okay once they hit 18? I mean, it's just asinine. You see what it's doing to the military. Military is now dealing with this issue. This is an issue that far reaches this whole, well, I understand what the government have to say. Woman, the government has got its say already. She just doesn't want to give a decisive answer because she doesn't want to make her liberal supporters mad. If you're going to be milquetoast or lukewarm, then I don't understand why you think that you deserve to have a position that requires giving decisive answers, especially on something so basic and so scientific. This is just, it's asinine to me. Well, I just don't want the government to have a say in that. Excuse me? Wait, suddenly you're limited government now? But you're fine sending all these people to go and fight in foreign wars and foreign land disputes. But oh my gosh. All of a sudden, I'm just very much realizing that I don't want a government to have a say in people's lives right here with this issue. Really? It's just such a dodge. It's cowardice. Stop being a coward. Just answer the damn question. You realize why so many people just kind of, you know how you ever been to a little kid's soccer game and they all follow the ball like a swarm of bees? I feel like that's what we're seeing in a lot of politics right now because people there isn't any real decisive leadership. I mean, when you are flubbing, even saying, yeah, no, a man can't become a woman, don't act like you're tough or a fighter. If you can't answer that basic A double snakes question, don't act like you're a fighter.